Hello, Sunday night, 8 o'clock, Diana the Happy Lawyer time. Sunday night, 8 o'clock, Diana the Happy Lawyer time. And now here's Diana. There's my drum roll, as I promised from last week. Drum roll, please. Hi, Ernie. How you doing? So, just the middle of the August, freezing August that we're having this year. Bundle up, stay in. Ugh, it's too cold already for this time of the year. But what the heck? We'll just carry on and go with it. Last week I talked about foundations and how important it is to have foundations in your life, and even important to build foundations every day. Twice a day, once at night and once in the morning. And that I find for myself, I have to build foundations long-term, short-term to keep myself on track and to succeed in whatever your desires are, whatever your goals are. It's very important to build a good foundation. Excuse me. Hi, Linda. How are you? Happy birthday. Today's Linda's birthday. Everybody say happy birthday to Linda. If you're seeing this on replay, say happy birthday anyway, because, sometimes I always figure if it's still November, it's still your birthday, and my birthday's February, so I celebrate all year round, all February. I do celebrate all year, whatever. My foundation is celebrate all the time in life. That's what I do. So, if you want to hear more about the initial foundation lecture that was last week, feel free to listen to last week's lecture. This week I'm going to be, because I was thinking about it more, the foundation thing, was still in my mind. And when I'm doing these these things for you guys, I'm also doing them for myself. As I'm going through, I'm also learning more and more, and my brain is churning and coming up with new ideas on how to approach life and try to make it fun and hopefully easy and enjoyable. And so I was thinking more about the foundation, and I decided to meditate on it. So I sat quietly, and when you sit quietly by yourself, there's no distractions. And when there's no distractions, ultimately, as your brain starts to weed out all the various different ideas and different worries and all the things you're worried about, you get to silence. And then when you're in silence, there's nothing left to listen to but your own brain. And that's really what a lot of people don't like to do. They listen to their own brains all the time. You're always listening to your own brain, but it's not your own thoughts. It's always thoughts about what's going on around you and what other people are thinking and saying and doing. And so meditation helps with that, to get to your own thoughts. And so I sat and I thought, what do I have to do to build a good foundation? And a strange thing happened. I'm going to tell you what happened. It was interesting. So I'm sitting quietly last week and I'm thinking, what do I have to do to build a good foundation? And there wasn't a lot of noise in the background or anything. There were people in cars going by out on the street, just basic stuff. And I distinctly heard the word listen. It was strange. I don't know if it was like a bird chirping at the same time somebody was opening their screen door. But as I sat there quietly, I heard, listen. And I thought, well, that was weird. And I distinctly heard the word listen after I asked, what do I have to do? How do I build a good foundation? So the first thing I thought was, listen. Okay, I have to listen. So then I continued to listen. And that is the first thing, the first tip for a good foundation is listen. The second thing that I heard while I was meditating was, I thought I heard my alarm go off on my phone. Now, it didn't. Maybe my neighbor has the same alarm. It did sound like it was in the distance. And I don't know where it came from, but I distinctly heard my alarm going off on my phone. And I thought, okay, I'm listening, and I just heard my alarm go off. So what does that mean? Because the universe is always trying to tell you something. And I figured it meant alarms. What do alarms mean? Alarms mean you have to schedule things in your life. You can't just, to build a good foundation, You have to schedule things and set time aside for things. So I continued to sit quietly and listen. And then I heard a guy next door using a saw, cutting wood or metal or something. And it was about 8:30 in the morning on Veterans Day. It was Monday. And I heard this. This was the next thing I heard when I was listening, was somebody working. And I thought, okay, what is that? What is the universe telling me? And what I realized was that the universe was telling me that you have to act. You have to take action. The sound of somebody sawing wood was somebody taking action. And then I continued to sit quietly and listen. And I don't know why or where it came from, but I heard in my mind say, you have to listen to Wayne Dyer. Now, it just so happens I have Wayne in my car right now on audio. Actually, I have some New Orleans music in there right now that's left over from my trip from last week. It was great. I bought a little CD from a guy, but I also have Wayne in my car. And if I talk about Wayne Dyer a lot, if you haven't never listened to him or heard him, just Google him or YouTube him. Wayne is really amazing. And he's definitely one of my biggest inspirations, and I often channel him. And he's very calm and soothing, and he really speaks a lot about, our own power to do things and accepting that. So when I came out of my meditation, I had those 4 items that I were answering my question, how do I build a strong foundation? They were listen, schedule time, act, and listen to Wayne Dyer. And then I realized that I had to do that, but I couldn't just do it one time. And so the 5th tip of building a foundation is repeat. So listen, schedule time, act, listen to Wayne Dyer, and repeat. So I'm going to discuss these individually and tell you what I think. So listening. Listening is an interesting thing that, we always think we're listening to stuff all the time. But when you're listening to build a foundation for yourself and for your success, it's not just anything that you have to listen to. Now, we all know I'm big on meditation. Excuse me one second. My meditation head. That when you're meditating and all the other sounds in the world are going, and meditation does this, it leaves a little clean spot on your brain. And that's where new ideas come in. That's where you're listening to yourself, like your true self, not yourself that's got to pay bills and do laundry and go to the store and pick up the kids and all of that other stuff. You're listening to yourself. So what you have to listen to is you have to listen to your own words. Now, this can be during meditation while you're sitting quietly and just waiting for the inspiration to come. Or it can be while you're speaking to other people about yourself, while you're talking about your dreams in life, what you love to do, what inspires you, while you're speaking. And we're always talking, we're always listening, but you really have to focus on what's important. There's a lot of words, blah, 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 blah. I could say 1,000 words in the next 20 minutes, and maybe only 10 of them or 20 of them might be really important. Hopefully more than that. But in our lives, I'm just using that as a comparison, in our lives we're talking and blah, blah, blah all day long, but there are some of those words that are very important, and you have to pay attention. So are the words that you're saying just getting you through the day, getting you by? Or are you speaking about the things that you truly want in your life and the things that you're passionate about? And how do you know the difference? How do you know the difference between those two things? If it's something that you're just blah, 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 or if it's something that's more meaningful. And the answer to that is you're going to feel it. You're going to feel the words that are meaningful to you about what you want in your life, about your goals and dreams. Those things are going to take more of a hold for you. You're going to be more passionate about them, and they're going to give you more energy, and you're going to want to maybe act on them more. And you're going to, we have to act on doing the laundry and picking up the kids. You can't just not act on them because it's not your, passion or desire to do the laundry. But we're talking about things that are part of your dreams and desires to build a better life for yourself than doing laundry. And the thing about listening to these ideas when you're speaking about them with other people, and also, you'll think back on them while you're by yourself. So if you speak to somebody about, oh, gee, I really would love to get into dog rescue. I'd really like to foster a dog. I've been thinking a lot about fostering a dog lately. And it's important to me. So it's something that I will talk about to other people. But then when I'm alone in my car or, in the shower or just laying in bed in the morning or right before I go to sleep, when I'm by myself, then those thoughts will come back to me again. And I'll be thinking about, am I going to, do that? Is it something that's really, I'm passionate about dogs, and do I want to foster a dog? Hey, Steve, how are you? Welcome. So, so the things that you're passionate about, that you're saying, you have to also pay attention to, are you following through on those things? When you're listening to yourself talking about your dreams and goals, are you just throwing them on the blah, blah, blah pile, or are you following through on them? And are you doing what you said you were going to do for yourself and for your goals to build the foundation that you need? Because if you're just talking about, what do they call them, castles in the air that have no foundation, it's basically like saying, oh, one day I want to open my own business, but you're not taking any action on it, which is another step in the building the foundation. So you have to pay attention to the words that you're saying about yourself when you're alone and when you're with other people, and if you're acting on those words. Now, the other thing about being with other people when you're talking about your goals is sometimes when we're with other people, we're not talking about our own goals. We're talking about the goals that they want us to have. For a long time when I was young, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to law school or if it was something that I just talked about for so long and my parents were, oh, go to law school, and all, everybody else was cheering me on. Was it something that I really wanted, or was it something that everybody else wanted for me? And that can definitely happen, when you're family members or a spouse or children or even friends that can talk to you about your goals and your dreams and your desires, but then you get mixed up between what's yours and what's theirs. And you have to be careful that what you're doing is what's your goal and your dream, and that you're building your foundation and that you're not building someone else's foundation. This happens a lot. When people you'll always hear like people get married and then they get divorced, okay? And then they're like, oh, well, what happened? You guys were so happy. And then somebody will say, well, I was only doing what she always wanted to do, and I never really did what I wanted to do in my life. Or I stayed home with the kids and I didn't get an education or pursue my flower business or drawing or writing or anything that I wanted to do. I was living someone else's foundation. So when you're talking about your goals and dreams, and when you're setting goals and dreams when you're with other people, just make sure that you're setting your own goals and dreams and you're not living someone else's. It's subtle. And listen, I've done it. I've done it many times. I was married and divorced, and turned out I thought I was, living my own goals and dreams. But in fact, I was also, and marriage is a compromise. Life is a compromise when you're with people. So there are times where you're going to do that and you're going to support somebody else in their goals and dreams. But you can't build your own foundation off of someone else's goals and dreams. So make sure that you're doing that. Also, when you're talking about your goals and dreams and you're trying to build a foundation, and if it's not working and you're not doing what you want to do, don't make excuses for not doing that. Again, back to spouses, when you're not living your goal and dream. You say, well, I'm not doing it because he won't let me, or she takes up too much time, or the kids have to be taken care of. And of course, the kids have to be taken care of. I'm not saying, blow off responsibilities. But what I am saying is, don't make excuses about not building a foundation for your own goals and dreams by saying that somebody else needed more attention, or somebody else took your time, or some, because we can always, it doesn't take a lot. When I'm talking meditating in the morning, takes about 20 minutes. And, even while you're driving in your car by yourself, or even if you're, alone wherever you are, shopping or walking or whatever, there's always going to be time that you can have for yourself. So even if it's a small amount of time for the day, and listen, people are busy. And I appreciate that people who have children and families and parents that they have to take care of and all kinds of stuff like that, that can get in your way of pursuing your own goals and dreams. It's not going to take up 100% of your time. There's going to be time where you can do what you want to do. And even if it's a half an hour a day to write something down, or meditate on something, or take some action that's going to help you pursue your own goals and dreams, or even just thinking and talking to yourself. That's something that, don't make excuses that you're doing it. You're not doing it because of other people. This was one of the quotes that I found today that I liked was, I am the architect of my life. I build my own foundation and I choose my own bricks. It doesn't say who said it. It was just an affirmation that I printed up. I build my own foundation and I choose my own bricks. This is what I'm talking about. Don't blame other people because you're not pursuing your dreams, because somewhere along the line, you have to build your own foundation. Okay, the next tip is scheduling time. So scheduling time is very important. I'm learning this now. Not that I didn't always know scheduling time was important, but I scheduled time for, doing my lawyer practice. I scheduled time for lawyering, but what I wasn't doing was writing. And this week I had a breakthrough and I decided to start writing. I start writing with the purpose of writing a book. I actually wrote the foreword to my book. And I'm pretty excited about it. But what I had to realize was that I have to actually schedule time to do that. I have to say, okay, I'm going to do this at this time, and I'm going to come home from work. So, say at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, I'm going to sit down for a half an hour and do it. Or on Saturday morning or Sunday morning, I'm going to take a block of time, 2 or 3 hours, and write. And even, it doesn't have to be, the first draft doesn't have to be the final draft. It shouldn't be, in fact. It should be just getting words on paper, new words on paper. And then even if it's just 20 minutes, I've mentioned my friend Marg told me about this, words on paper for 20 minutes. And it's really helpful because it doesn't take up a lot of time. And you could just sit at your desk and forget about spell check or anything, just words on paper. But you do have to schedule the time to do that, because if you don't schedule the time to do that, the time's going to get away from you. And you're going to say, oh, I didn't get a chance to work on my book today, or I didn't get a chance to do something to my dream, to garden, or to take time at the, dog walking, or whatever it is that you want to do for your own goals. Stuff like scheduling time when you want to wake up. Now, these are obvious things. You got to set your alarm clock. If you set your alarm clock for 6:30 or 6:20, and you hit the snooze button once and get out of bed at 6:30, you have to do it. You have to follow through with that. I mean, you can't just schedule time and not follow through with it. You have to schedule time and you have to stick to it if you want to build a good foundation. Obviously, if you want to be healthy in your body and you want to exercise, you have to schedule time for that. And lots of people tell me they do it in the morning, because if they don't do it in the morning, they don't get to it for the rest of the day. By the time they get home, the train is delayed, or they're hungry, or somebody's waiting for dinner, and they don't get a chance to exercise, and then they're too tired and they go to bed. So the importance of scheduling that in the morning, even if it's 15 or 20 minutes, is something that's going to help you build a healthy foundation for a healthy body. But again, it's not enough to just say, I'm going to get up at 6:30 and meditate for half an hour and then exercise for 20 minutes. You have to actually do it. You have to follow through. Again, at night, the foundation of going to bed at night, closing out your day, has its own foundation. You have to, my cousin Kathy talked about, she has to make sure the sink is clean before she goes to bed. That's her foundation for going to sleep. I talked last week about maybe taking a shower before you go to bed the night before, because they say that actually soothes your body and helps you sleep, which sometimes people have difficulty doing. And these are things that you have to schedule. I like to go to bed by 10 o'clock during the week. And if I don't do that, if I just think about going to bed by 10 o'clock, but I stay up till 11 or 12 o'clock, now I've damaged my foundation for getting to bed, and my nighttime foundation is cracked. And then when my nighttime foundation is cracked and I'm going to bed late, then sometimes my morning foundation can be cracked as well as a result of that. So you have to schedule time for your foundation, and you have to stick to it. The next thing was act. You have to take action, and that is taking action at the time that you've scheduled it, or at the time that you haven't scheduled it, whenever it is. It could be something that's on the fly, you might run into somebody that you didn't expect to, that you haven't seen in a long time, and they may have some information for you on a new job or a new prospect that they're doing, or they may just even give you some insight to something in your life that you just needed to talk about without realizing it. That coincidentally, in the true meaning of the word, where two activities coincide at the same time, two activities that happen at the same time, sometimes that type of thing will happen to help you build your foundation. So when you're acting towards your goal and building your foundation, it has to be at the scheduled times that you've put aside for the action, or it could also be at random times or unexpected times that you have to be open to things coming and into your life, and then take action at that time. The universe very frequently will give you opportunities that you don't expect and don't see coming, and you have to take action immediately because that opportunity might disappear. This is Steve. I don't know if you're still on, but I know Steve had an interesting opportunity where he was going to sell his business, and he wasn't expecting it. It just came along. It wasn't planned. It wasn't a foundation. It wasn't anything he scheduled. But all of a sudden, this opportunity arose and presented itself to him, and he needed to act on it. So, and I know that plenty of times in your life, I know in my life, something will happen and you'll hesitate and go, you know what? I don't think so. Let me wait. And then that opportunity disappears and you think, darn, I should have acted. I should have taken action on that. So you have to remember that taking action is a very important part of building your foundation. The next thing that I heard when I was meditating on my how to build a foundation question was listen to Wayne Dyer. Okay, now for me, Wayne Dyer represents a lot of things. He's an inspiration to me. But that doesn't mean that everybody should listen to Wayne Dyer. So when I say that the tips are listen, schedule time, act, and listen to Wayne Dyer, that doesn't mean that everybody should listen to Wayne Dyer. I think you should. But for me, it was the important thing. But the lesson is listen to whatever it is that you need to listen to move towards your goals and dreams. Now that could just mean like getting help from people that have done the thing that you wanted to do before. Maybe somebody that's opened a business, a floral business, selling flowers, or somebody that's opened a restaurant and you want to open a restaurant. Ask that person, go to them, or go on YouTube, how to open a restaurant. I never Googled that or YouTube that, but I'm pretty sure that if you Googled or YouTube how to open a restaurant, there'd be a lot of information there that you could use. So the thing that I'm talking about is just listen to whatever is next that comes up that is going to show you the way. show you the way that you need to do something next. Now, one of the things that would help me with my breakthrough this week was my friend Barry Seidel wrote a book, Evolutions of a Law Practice. Wait a second. Where are you? Where are you, book? Evolutions of a Law Practice by Barry Seidel. I love it. I know it's backwards for you, but it's straight on for me. And look at that. He wrote the book, and he did it. He'd been working on it for a really long time. And then, because he probably was doing other things and he didn't schedule time and act when he was supposed to, it took longer than he thought. But then he did do it, and he got to the point where the book is published now. And guess what? I saw that, and I thought, I'm going to ask him how he did that. And I did ask him. And he told me it took 4 years to write it and about 2 months to get it published. But it inspired me because, I've said before, one of my favorite quotes is, what one man can do, another man can do. So, when you look towards other people to ask for help, to see how they've done things, this was something that really inspired me this week. I saw my good friend and colleague that we've known for 20 years wrote a book. I was like, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. And of course, a lot of people have written books, so I knew I could write a book, but everybody was far away. It wasn't something that really affected me or touched my life. But my friend Barry, seeing his book come to fruition, really made me realize, wow, I can write a book. And so I sat down and I wrote this weekend. I wrote a foreword to my book. It's a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to writing the next chapter and the next chapter. And like I said, it's not the final draft, but it's a draft. So, whatever it is in your life that's going to move you towards your goal, that you need to learn or absorb information. That's what my learning from, listening to Wayne Dyer message was. Wherever I'm going to absorb information from Barry Seidel, seeing him write that book, that's what you need to do. So you're going to listen to your dreams. You're going to schedule time for your dreams. You're going to act on your dreams. And if you get stuck and you need help, you're going to find other people that have done it and ask questions or educate yourself with YouTube or something like that. So then the last thing was repeat. Listen, schedule, act, get help, repeat. And repeating is very important because anything that you do to build a good foundation is going to require habits, repetition, rituals. Tony Robbins talks about rituals and habits all the time. It's one of his big things about how to be successful. If your morning ritual is get up, I know Jeff Smith, you could just tell by looking at somebody what their morning ritual is. If it's getting up and exercising, or if it's getting up and eating donuts, or, you can look at them and see what it is. That's what Tony Robbins says to his live audience. And it's true. So you have to stick to these, the things that are going to build your foundation. And don't just build your foundation one day. You have to build it every day. My foundation that I have to build every morning and my foundation that I have to build every night, it's the same thing. It's a ritual. It's a habit. So I'm going to have to keep doing that over and over. My Bruce Lee quote from last week. We all know that I love Bruce Lee. I don't know where he is right now, but the Bruce Lee quote was, don't fear the man who has made 10,000 kicks. Fear the man who has done one kick 10,000 times. And that's the idea of habits and rituals. Do the same thing over and over, and then it becomes easy. It'll become easy to wake up and meditate for 20 minutes. And you know what? If you have family, I got to wake up and get the kids off to school. There's one or two things you could do. One, get up half an hour earlier than anybody else and have some time to yourself. Or two, get them involved. Have the whole family get up and meditate for 20 minutes. Believe it or not, it can be done. They're having whole schools now that are having children meditate, a session of meditation. I know Ernie does a little meditation, a little deep breathing, just a little deep breathing in the morning or at night. Have a ritual or a habit you do with your family. If you have a lot of people that you're involved with and you take care of, get them involved in a ritual. Believe me, it'll be the best thing for their life. If they start meditating young, they'll be successful. There's no doubt about that. So Those are the things that you have to do to build a foundation. Listen, schedule time, act, get help, and repeat. Here are things that you have to not do. These are, do not do this for your foundation. Don't listen to negative people. There's a Chinese proverb that I put up last week, and it said, the people saying that you can't do it should stop interrupting the people who are actually doing it. So there's always going to be people out there that are going to say you can't do it because they can't do it. And because they can't do it, they want to make it sound like, well, no, I can't do it because nobody can do it. Nobody can do that. Nobody can write a book. Oh, it's so hard to write a book. Apparently, it's not hard. It just takes time. It takes building a foundation and committing to do it. So the people that you are hearing that are giving you negative feedback, you have to make sure that they don't take you off track. Now, sometimes negative feedback or negative things that happen are important. Not all negative things are bad. Some negative things could be a caution to you that maybe you're going too fast or you need to back up a step. Sometimes in a foundation, there might be a crack when you're building a house. And if you notice that it's a negative thing, you have to back up and reevaluate. So not all negative feedback is bad. Consider it, take heed, think of it if it's cautionary, and it's okay to adjust your foundation at that point. You can say, okay, wait a minute, this isn't working. I know I talked last week about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. I gave it some short shrift, but the reality was they started building it. They got to the second or third floor. They saw that it was starting to lean, and they stopped. And if they hadn't stopped, if they kept building, it would have ultimately fallen. Years went by and they started building again. But they adjusted. They didn't rip up their foundation completely, but they adjusted. I was reading more about it. They made one side of the building, they did the floors uneven so that the side that was leaning was smaller and the side that was on the other side was wider, to try and level it off. They also they put weights on the side that was not leaning so that the weighted side would try and keep the building up. So even if you have a foundation that's not perfect, and perfect is a horrible word. There's nothing that's perfect. Even if you have a foundation that's not solid, it has some cracks in it, you can still adjust and you can still fix that foundation or tear down some pieces of it and rebuild. And if you have to tear the whole thing down, if the whole thing's, a mess, don't be afraid to tear it down and start over again. Some people went to law school. They had that foundation like I talked about last week, 4 years of college and 3 years of law school. Then they got to be a lawyer and they said, I hate this. I hate being a lawyer. And they had to toss that whole foundation of 7 years education and go do something else. But it's okay, because if it's not what you really want to do, then you shouldn't do it. And you're going to know, because the passion, it's going to be something that you're passionate about. And it's going to be something that you're going to want to put the time into and that you're going to love doing. I guarantee you all those students that went to law school that really didn't want to be a lawyer, they probably didn't enjoy law school either. I enjoyed it. So if it's something that you're going to not enjoy, then even if you've spent time on it, if you think you have to just trash the whole thing and start a new foundation for something else, it's okay to do that. I'm starting foundations now. I don't want to say how old I am. My brain's about 24 years old, and my body's somewhere in the 30s or 40s, but my driver's license says something different. I don't care. I'm starting something new now with this, and I'm starting to build a foundation halfway into my life after all other foundations that I've built. So it's okay to start over with something brand new that you've never done. And sometimes you have to break out of an old foundation. Foundations from people that have been married for a long time or that get divorced. They have to start new. Foundations that you've had as a child, or if somebody told you that you didn't, weren't able to do something. A lot of childhood foundations that we've had were based on scarcity and lack. And when you're a child, you're like a clean slate. You're like empty blackboard and somebody else starts writing on it. And if somebody is writing scarcity and lack on your childhood blackboard and you've grown up and your foundation is scarcity and lack, you have to be willing to break free from that foundation and start a new foundation. Start a foundation of abundance and opportunity, and start thinking that way. And it's never too late to break out of an old foundation and think about some new foundations. Another thing, and also this was a quote that I found. Ta-da. And it says, sometimes two people will find each other with broken foundations, and they build together as a team and make a foundation that's indestructible. So, again, I was talking last week about the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Even if your foundation is not great, you can still become famous. And even if your foundation as a child or whatever you grew up with is cracked, we all have some cracks in our foundations. If you find somebody else that has a cracked foundation, two people together with cracked foundations can build an indestructible foundation. So the last thing you need to do is not give up. You can't give up. You can't throw in the towel. I can't tell you how many times I've started exercising on my exercise machine right in the other room, and then I stopped doing it. But I eventually go back. Even if I haven't done it for a week, I go back. I was on vacation in New Orleans. I didn't do it for a week, and I haven't gotten back to it. I've been a little under the weather. But then maybe tomorrow morning I'll start doing it again. If I have a good foundation tonight, going to sleep early, then tomorrow morning I will be able to get up and have a little extra time to work out for 15 minutes. Still, that's all it takes. It doesn't take a lot of time. So you have to not give up, even if there's a little crack, even if there's a big crack, even if you have to start from scratch, trash your old foundation. Even if you started and stopped and started and stopped, it's okay. You can just start over. Just don't give up and follow your passion. The thing that makes you excited. The thing that you have energy for. And this is where you're going to always have energy for the things that you want to do. Nobody wants to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to work. But if you knew you were taking a plane to Italy at 4 o'clock in the morning, you would be up. You'd be waiting for the cab at the door. So it's the things that you're passionate about that you really want to do in your life. Those are the things that you're going to find energy for. And those are the things that you're going to take time, and you're going to schedule it, and you're going to act. So listen and pay attention in your life about the things that you feel passionate for. And that's where you'll find unlimited energy to do those things. Even if you're up till 3 o'clock in the morning writing or making decorations at Christmas time or baking cookies or whatever it is, you're going to follow those, and you'll always have energy to do those things. So that's all. I'm running late. Sorry, guys. I always think I'm not going to have enough time to fill up in 20 minutes, and then I end up going more than 30 minutes. So I apologize for that, but hey, I was on a roll. I can't help it. Thank you all for listening. Until next week is another miscellaneous week. It's the week before Thanksgiving, so we'll all be getting ready for fun with family, and maybe I'll talk about that next week, because lots of times family's not fun. Lots of times family can be stressful. So maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about that. But until then, build your foundations, listen to what you really want, schedule time, take action, get help, and repeat. And thank you again. I love you all, and love is all you need. Bye. Bye-bye. Have a great week. Uh-oh. Bye. Turning off.